Hello there, everyone, and a very, very special welcome to Layla Fanucci. Layla, thank you for being our featured virtuosa this week for this very, very special occasion. This is our first live open elevation conversation
Wow. Is
where
that right?
we, yes, where we
Mhm.
have opened the velvet ropes of membership
Okay.
to invite the public in
How
to
wonderful.
join us. So we may have some people popping in throughout this conversation, but we
Okay.
so appreciate you
Oh,
taking the time to share your story, incredibly inspiring story, and your insight about your artistic endeavors, about the nonlinear trajectory of an artistic life, and so much more.
oh, it's my pleasure and my joy to be here, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Layla, we're going to start with a question that we love to ask every
Sure.
single virtuosa at the
Okay.
beginning of these elevation conversations.
hmm
And that is, what ignited your creative spark?
Great question. I think it was always in me from the very beginning. I just think that that spark took different channels, different venues as I passed from decade to decade. And so each decade it changed a little bit, but I've always had it in me for sure since the day I was born, I think.
Ooh, something innate within you. So, tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that because you grew up very musical.
hmm
You described to me that you were interested in many things, a
Yes.
myriad of things, but you were particularly drawn to music. Tell us
Yes.
just a little bit about that in your childhood and
Yes.
how you explored music going forward.
Well, I had lessons probably since I was 4 or 5. So I played the piano, I played the clarinet, I played the guitar, and so music was a part of our everyday life. It was just always in me. I loved to sing. It was just there when I was younger. When I was about 13, I started teaching all my friends and their brothers and sisters how to play the guitar to the horror of my parents in the 1960s when guitars were for hippies, right?
Oh, yes.
And so
That's
they were like,
amazing.
"No, you need to teach in the piano or the." I said, "No." So I was teaching maybe 10 students, and by the time I was 18, I had 36 students that I was teaching half hour a week, and I kept teaching them all the way through college, and that's how I got through college. So music for me was not only learning but also sharing, and
Mhm.
that full circle of learning and teaching. And I did that all the way till the end of college, till I graduated. And that's actually how I got through. I had students all the way through.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. We had a little band that when I was 18, I formed, and it was all girls that wanted to perform in local hospitals and little events, community events. The boys didn't want to perform, so it was 25 girls, and we called ourselves Layla's Angels. They
Oh
named
my
us,
gosh.
and so we went around all the hospitals and the convalescent homes, and we just sang and played for people. So that was my beginning.
It's amazing. That is something new that we have not talked about. I love that.
Well, usually they go
Layla's
past that part, right? They
angels.
go
That's
right into the
right.
other
I
part.
know. This
Yeah.
is amazing. So let's talk about the business side then of
Yes.
teaching,
Yes.
starting at 13.
Yes.
13. So
Yes.
you developed a really keen business acumen at a really early age.
I
How
did.
did you go about this? What did you charge your
Well,
students?
okay.
How did you hold
Yeah.
these lessons? Where did you
Yeah.
hold them?
Well, I held the lessons in my home, where I was raised, and I was the parents were bringing the kids to me every week, half hour, and I was charging $1 a lesson. And then when I was 13, then when I was about 16 to 18. I got serious about it. I had a room in our home, and the parents would bring the kids every half hour, and I booked it like 3:30, 4:35, 5:30.
Oh,
Did
wow.
this all through high school, and then I was making quite a lot. At that time it was like $6, $8 a lesson, and it went up from there, to well, by the time I ended college it was $30 a lesson, but it gradually went up. But I remember being so young, and I had a lot of students, and the kids just came, every day, and every half hour. Everybody came. Everybody loved lessons. I taught them how to play the guitar, taught them how to sing, and I remember being about 16, going, it is just so easy to be rich in the United States of America. Look at this, because all the money I was making, I was keeping. Well, I didn't know you got to pay rent, and
Yes.
I didn't
Yes.
realize all this. I just was.
Yes.
So I was telling my mom, this is
Hilarious.
great.
That's
But
hilarious.
it went slowly up, and it went up, and the students kept coming. I had a waiting list. And then, probably about when I was 18, I had a fair salary for teaching. I can't remember what it was, but it was a good salary. I got through college that way. I bought a car that way. But I didn't
Whoa.
realize that I was living in my parents' home. So, that
Yes.
made it, I didn't have any expenses.
Absolutely. How did they help you, to file your taxes? Did you file through them
They
under the
did.
household?
I had the easy part. I just collected
Yeah.
the money, and they did the rest. See, now I didn't know at that age that there's a lot more to
Exactly.
it, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but it was a
That's
great.
incredible.
Yeah, it was a great way to get through college, and I bought my first car at 16, on my own. So that's what I did all the way through the end of college. Just taught music was always a part of my life.
Yes. That is such a valuable lesson for us to hear.
Mhm.
And so, as you then progressed through college, once you graduated, you went immediately into a music teaching job. Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about that and how that compared to all of those years that you spend kind of developing your teaching style and
Yeah.
how that was different when you were in a classroom and when you were managing
Yes.
multiple students at the same time. What did that look
Yes, yes. Well, I did go. I graduated from San Francisco State University,
like?
and I had a degree in sociology and music because
Oh,
I figured that I got the music part down. Although you can always get better as a musician and learn more and more, but I needed the sociology part to understand people,
oh, right.
because people, are complex. I think they're more complex than music.
Agreed.
And so,
Totally agreed.
yeah, so I went into teaching, just was a natural progression. I taught at several schools, and then when we moved up here to St. Helena, I taught at Howell Mountain up here. Then I taught at St. Helena Catholic School here because my kids were there. Taught music there. I played with the kids at all the masses. So I had a beautiful program where K through K through 6, they learned how to sing in choir, and
Mhm.
then 6, 7, 8, they learned how to play the guitar. And those children rotated to play for the masses. I used to tell them the Beatles started with 3 chords. We can do this. C, D, and G. We're good to go. And
Brilliant.
we did, and they played for all the masses. So for me, it's always been that full circle where you've got to learn, and but then you've got to share it. And so we did that. We went to the hospitals and the firehouses and the convalescent homes, and we played and gave it back, and had all that joy, and then back to learning. So the next, I'd say, 20 years were teaching,
Mhm.
music, singing, sharing, playing the guitar, playing for the masses, and contributed to the community that way.
And did you have children during this time as well?
I did. I had 3 children, girl, girl, boy, during this time. And when I got to the Catholic school, which is the reason why I transferred over there, they're in the Catholic school here in St. Helena. And I was their music teacher, to their horror.
That is a good thing and a not so good thing
It
at
was a good, it
various
was
times, right?
right. It was a good thing for my girls, the 2 girls. It was
Oh,
not a good thing for my son.
Ooh,
He,
break
no,
that apart a little bit.
no,
I'd love to hear more about that.
yeah, no, that the girls loved it. They were like, "Oh, that's my mom." My son was like, "Oh, don't look at
That's
me.
my
That's
mom. Yeah.
that's my mom." Yeah, but he I think for him it would have been better, it's hard when your mom is your music teacher. But they we taught them how to sing. I taught them how to play the guitar. I taught them how to play the masses. It was the program, and it was a beautiful program. It was a beautiful program because the children learn to give back and create the music for the masses. And I can tell you, and this, children not only love to create, but they love to sing and they love the artisan process. So it was a great gift for all of us.
Absolutely, and there's so much that the audience sees in children when they're performing with such joy and such
Yes,
gusto, and even when they're very nervous,
yes,
even when there are funny things that happen while they're nervous,
yes,
there's just this simplicity
yes,
in the joy of the making of the thing when you
yes,
watch a child do it, and
yes.
that is informative, very informative.
It really is. And for them, for the audience, it's so
Mhm.
moving, because children are
Yes,
such a great teacher just by being who they are. And
yes.
we did move a little bit and we did dance a little bit. And we did
Ooh,
do a little choreography to the horror of the of the community. And I remember the priest saying, "Not too much dancing up here, please. Not too much."
that's amazing. That
But
is
we did it anyway.
amazing.
And the children, I think they receive more by giving back. I know they did. I know they did. And so it was a great program.
And I'm sure that as you have heard from your students over the years now too, as they grew into adulthood, they called upon those experiences. Have you heard from your students? What are some of the things
Yes,
that they've said?
yes. And I heard the most profound one I have to tell you about. It was in 18. I went to New York City I worked with Walter Rick Isaac Gallery for 24 years.
Yes.
And I was doing a solo show there, 25 paintings of all the
Mhm.
cities. Yeah. And walks this girl. She writes me first. Her name, well, I shouldn't say her name, but we'll call her Mary. She's the sweetest little thing. She was 6, 7, 8, and 9 when I knew her.
Wow.
And she came to my exhibit. You cannot believe that she gave me a big hug, and now she's in her 30s, and she introduces me her older son, who's about 16. And she says to me in this exhibit while we're having the opening reception, "I want to tell you," she whispers in my ear, "when I was younger, my father was an alcoholic, my mother was manic depressive. And
Oh,
I was so tortured growing up.
oh,
But music gave me an outlet that I'll never, ever forget." She said, "I would go into my bedroom, I would play the songs you told me to play and
mhm.
sing, and
Yes.
it would be a huge relief for me." She did write songs at the time. She would write, she
Oh,
said, "I wrote these songs," and she said, "I want to tell you, both the parents are gone, how much that got me through a very torturous childhood." And she gave me a big hug and said, "Thank you,"
oh,
and introduced me to her son. I was just like, this whole exhibit is worth everything just for that.
absolutely,
I had no
absolutely.
idea she was suffering, and she was just this wonderful little girl that came to class every day. I had no idea what she was going behind the scenes. But to know that music gave her the courage, the strength, the outlet to keep going
Yes.
is huge. And here she is, married with two beautiful children, looks amazing, happy, content. So music is a healing, and any creative art form is a
Absolutely.
healing source
Absolutely.
for our soul, for our spirit, and it gets us through.
You gave her you fortified her with not only the skill, but also with this healing art form that
Yes, got
could
her through.
transform her and transport her, yes,
Yeah,
beyond that.
yeah,
So,
got her through.
let's talk about that time period then when you decided to stop teaching.
Yeah.
Tell us about that time period, and I especially want you to tell us a little bit more about your husband's reaction, because I find this the most hilarious thing I have heard, and I think a lot of us can identify with this.
Yeah. Well, I was teaching at the Catholic school, three kids. Two of them were entering college, and we all know that's a really expensive part. And I decided that I really wanted to see where change mediums to painting. I just started painting and fell in love with it. And I thought, I really want to see where this can go, but I cannot teach and I cannot paint. If I do it, I have to quit teaching cold turkey and I have to, for 2 years, just focus every day on my art form. And I did 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, just got in there and painted, 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 and everything came out. But I knew I had to do that because when you teach full time or part time, it still takes a lot out of you, and I wouldn't have anything left to give to the painting and to the art. I knew that instinctively. But everybody said, no, you paint half part time, you see what you can do, and you teach part time. And my husband has the line that everybody loves because he had his wise when I said, I am totally quitting. And I
Mhm.
love teaching and I loved all my students, but I said, I have to do this to see if I can do this. And
Absolutely.
he said, I feel like I'm on the Titanic and you just jumped.
Yes, that is the best line. That is the best line. Now, he's a tax attorney, or he was a tax
He,
attorney, is that
yes,
correct?
yes, he just retired. He was a tax attorney all these years and the winemaker for Charter Oak
Yes,
Winery.
right, that's
And
right.
he was surprised.
To say the least. So there was this logical sense of him or about him, right?
Yes,
That was clinging to
yes,
how do we make the numbers work and how
work.
does this make
Yes.
sense? Yeah.
And it didn't make sense. But because it didn't make sense, I said, give me 2 years. And if I don't make as much as I was teaching in 2 years, I'll go back. So, I mean, I worked really hard 12, 13, 14 hours a day,
Absolutely.
working, 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 working. And you know, Marlo Thomas, I'm in her book, It Ain't Over Till It's Over. She
Yes.
did the math, which I didn't do. She did, where she said, not that year, but maybe 5 or 6 years later, Layla made in 1 year selling paintings how much she would have made in 32 years of teaching in 1 year. So
Whoa.
10 years later, it panned out, right? But it's a process. It's a process.
Absolutely. And the crux of this though, Layla, is that you had the wherewithal to take the advice that was given to you and basically to
Mhm.
filter it through your intuition. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about your
Definitely.
daily process of fortifying
Yeah.
yourself against the naysayers,
Yeah.
against the funny comment even of your husband, against the fact that at that time there weren't the numbers to support it yet.
No, there
It
wasn't.
was
The
the
naysayers.
practice. It was the
That's right.
doing.
That's
Yeah.
right. And the naysayers were everybody, even my children. My son said to me, "You're letting
Yeah.
down the whole community." Because I did all the masses and
Because
the
you were
kids,
so influential.
I was
Yes.
very involved. And he said, "My friends will," he was just like 8 or 9, "My friends will never forgive you." I
Oh
mean, I
my
got naysayers.
gosh.
I got,
That's really cute.
I got naysayers everywhere. Nobody,
Yeah. Even the
nobody
young
said,
ones.
go and do this. But I knew I had to. So I woke up, I quit teaching, which was the hard part,
Yes.
because I loved teaching and I loved the children. I did. But I felt inside there was more in here that needed to come out. And I didn't know how to get it out other than to focus. I remember my mother in law saw one of my first paintings and she said, "Where did this come from?" And I said, "I don't know, but I know there's more inside." She said, "Oh, good God." So there was no encouragement, but I woke up every day. I actually really loved it. I went in the backyard and I painted all day long. And painting for me is like any kind of art form. When you get in it, it's therapy. When you get in it, you're there for maybe 8 or 9 hours and you think it's 15 or 20 minutes. You're
Yes.
engrossed in it. You are in that city, you are in that painting. And so it was a joy. It was a pleasure and a privilege to do that. And I did it every day. And it wasn't like, oh, I had to get up and do this, 6, 7 days a week. It was like, I can't wait. Here we are, 25, 26 years later, and I still feel that way. I
Wow.
wait to finish whatever, my breakfast or whatever I have to do or a meeting and go in to paint. Here we are. I still feel the same way. It's a joy. It's a pleasure. It's something that feels so good to me. And I think the creation process, creating, is something that just feeds the soul. And I love that feeling. So that's what I did. And I did it for 2 years. Now I was selling these paintings because I remember my husband's word, I'm jumping off the Titanic. So I said, okay, let me help where I can. And so I was selling everything that I painted, but for just maybe cost and
Yes.
not that much, but it helped. Every little bit helps.
Absolutely. And all the while you were honing your voice. So
Yes.
let's talk about that because you have this rich depth of experience with the voice, literally as well as figuratively. You knew how to instruct your students. You had found this niche of how you were guiding them. But then when it came to the self guidance of this new exploration of art for
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
Tell us about the process of honing in to the
Yeah.
voice that we see depicted in the painting that is right
Okay.
behind you as well, the
It is.
series that you developed. So
Yeah.
guide us through that
Yes.
period.
Well, it was a process. My first couple years was just getting everything out. So I painted people, landscapes, abstract. I painted everything because it was just getting it all out. Everything you could, I just loved it too. And then after a couple of years, I took the work. I had about 250 paintings and I brought them to the best art consultants in New York. I found through a client of Rob's who was the best. We go to them. Greenwich Village. I took my book of 250 paintings. I was in my mid 40s. And I just remember so well going up this creaky ladder to her suite. And I went in there and I thought I'd be in a conference room or something. And they said, no, go up to her suite. And I thought, oh, what am I doing?
Yes.
I
Where
have
am
my
I?
little, where am I? What am I doing? Am I crazy? To a total stranger. So I have my book of all my 250 paintings. I'm going up this creaky ladder, this old French hotel in Greenwich Village. And I get to the top of the stairs and I say to myself, what are you doing? All right. I was a little nervous. Okay, if it's anything dangerous, you just turn, I'm talking to myself.
Oh yeah.
Knock on the door. Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep appears.
I love that we can all picture that right now. That's amazing. Brandon
Opens her
Priestley,
door,
open the
opens
door.
her door, sit down. I'm sitting on her couch. She's sitting on a chair. And we talked about my work. And she was so like that character. When I would try to explain something about my painting, she looked at all the different styles of painting. When I would say something, she'd go like this, don't
Whoa.
talk. Mm. She's, she's studying the music. Don't talk. If I cracked a joke, she wouldn't laugh. She didn't think it was funny.
Oh,
But she was
wow.
serious. She was very serious. She wanted to see if there was anything here that was marketable, that was good. I mean, she was serious. And for that, it was very good advice. She closed the book and she said, this is good. It's been done before. Now, the paintings were mine. She's not talking about that. She's talking about the style.
Yes.
So the best piece of advice I got, and that happened through the following year, was you have to paint to be a marketable artist. You have to paint a style.
Mhm.
Uh, no one paints. She actually got this close to my face and she said, in the world.
Wow.
Go home. And I was on her couch going, okay, that might be a little hard. I don't know how to do
Yeah.
it. I'm
Was
like,
it
am I?
daunting? Did that feel
Yes,
daunting in the
I thought
moment?
I don't
Yeah.
know how to do that because
Mhm.
I don't know what a style is that no one paints in the world.
Yeah.
But her next line was go home and paint me 17 paintings, and she shoved me out the door. And so I did. I just did that process again where I painted 17 and then I got an email, give me 22 more in 5 months. It was always a deadline to it. And she was probably surprised that I kept coming with the paintings for a couple years. Give
Mhm.
me, 40 in 6 months, whatever it was. And we did this dance and it was a good dance for a couple years. Now, of course, I love painting. I was selling them,
Yes.
so the
Mhm.
Titanic can keep going up. And I was selling them and I was giving them to her, the photos. And when it came a couple years later, fast forward
Mhm.
to the cityscape paintings and cities on top of each other,
Yes.
she wrote me back and said, and a few others wrote me back and said, this is something I haven't seen before.
Whoa.
Yeah. So create a body of 35 paintings and let me see them. And I did. And once I did that, I got an email, always one line, never two. And it said, meet me in New York. And I did. I did.
Wow.
And
How
she
many
introduced.
cityscapes had you done to that point?
I had done about 30. I had a piece of work about 30, 35 of them that I could present to her. All cityscapes, all cityscapes.
Yes.
And at that point, she introduced me to Walter Wickheiser,
Mhm.
and he gave me my first solo exhibition in New York City, uh, where I was in his gallery. One artist commands the whole gallery for a couple of months, and so it's
Yes.
not like a lot of artists. You are on
Mhm.
Broadway by yourself, naked. That's what it felt like.
You are on display, very vulnerable.
Yes.
Wow. Can we back up just a little bit? Tell
Yep.
us about the process, literally,
Hmm.
what was going through your head, what was going through your body
Yeah.
that inspired the Cityscape series? After you had experimented with these different voicings and the different styles,
Yeah.
what was the impetus behind the Cityscapes?
A couple things. One is I have to preface by saying my father was an architect, my grandfather was an architect, and so I grew up seeing a lot of architectural designs of buildings and all that.
Yes.
Second thing is, I was a musician, and when they studied my work, I found it so interesting to hear from several of the critics that I see music in Fanucci's work. The people are the notes. The staff, C
Yeah.
F clef, everything is in there. So here we have architectural background, here we have music background, and then come into my cityscapes. I love, and I did this in the earlier work, layering process. So if you see, let's say, a portrait of the Martini Lady or anything like that, there are layers under there because I loved, even in the beginning, what it offers. So if I do a painting, first one, it's good, but for me, it doesn't offer me enough. Yeah. So
Yes.
I like the layering process. That's something I was attracted to from the very beginning. When I did a city, I paint the color, paint the architectural design with one brush that I cut in black oil. I thought, well, what happens if you put another layer of color and do the same thing over again? And
Yes.
then what happens when you do it again? And it was the third time. Like I've done four, I've done two, and one painting I did five cities. That took a long time to paint. But other than I won't. Five is really a lot. I'm comfortable at three. I'm comfortable at three. And so
Yes.
when I got to the third city, all that's underneath bleeds through, comes through, gives it this depth, this texture, this energy that you're not going to have at one. You're not going to have it. So for me, I loved, even in the beginning, the layering process. I
Yes.
went to cities because I think the love of cities from growing up and the direction that this is really amazing, take it in this direction, and I listen to people.
Yes. Absolutely. It feels as you're talking about this and as I have looked, like this at your paintings, studying them, I love that you have your paintings in books now too, because for those who can't quite get to the gallery,
Yeah.
I just think that's so brilliant, and it speaks to how you have this drive to reach out to others, to give
Hmm.
your gift to others. But when what I have seen, when I see your paintings,
Hmm.
I see harmony,
Oh,
and I see the chordal structure.
yes.
I see canon, I see fugue,
Mhm.
I see all of those things that are the basis and the foundation of Western music, but of
Yeah.
all music, truly.
Yes. Hmm.
And I love that you have translated that. I mean, it feels so authentic to your story and your experience. I also want to know this too. The draw that you have to layering, do you
Hmm.
feel like that is also indicative of the privilege of growing older?
Ah. What a great question. Growing older, because it didn't hit me till 60. And I keep telling my children in 3 years, I'm going to be 70. And they said, why do you do that? Why do you go up? And I
Yeah.
said, because in 3 years, I'm going to be 70. And, growing older is just, I didn't think about it. You think about it at your last chapter. This
Yes.
is the last chapter.
Yeah.
Nobody lives forever, right?
Mhm.
And we all have an expiration date. So I think about it a lot.
Mhm.
And I think that the paintings for me offer, I like the complexity of the city under the city under the city, because that's just life. That's just life
Yes.
for all of us. When you see a person, there's so much behind that person. Everybody goes through so much, and we just see this, but we don't see the history, the huge history. And the older you get, the more history you have, the more complex you are. And I correlate the two all the time. Whereas when I was younger, when I was you guys' age,
Mhm.
I never even thought about that. Now I think about it every single day. And at my age, you also lose a lot of people to, sickness, and it's just, you didn't, when you're younger, you don't pay attention to that. At
Mhm.
least I didn't. So, yes, I think about it all the time. And I think that cities are complex, people are complex, life is complex. And when I present a painting with a lot of complexity and a representation of life and that city, that's when I'm the happiest. If I gave it to you at 1, I wouldn't be happy. If I gave it to you at 2, probably wouldn't be happy. But 3 and 4 is my happy place, where I go, okay, this is indicative of what I want to present this to the world.
Yes. Oh, Layla, it's so beautiful. And I you can sense that. What you can sense the layers, you can sense the complexity. And as humans, we're drawn to that. We're drawn to the complexity.
Yeah.
We will get very tired of the one layer very
Yeah.
quickly.
Yes.
We get very
Yeah.
tired of that. And so I love that you bring that complexity out. So let me ask you this, as you layer on city,
Mm-hmm.
on top of city, it reminds me of if you take like your landscape of Paris,
Mm-hmm.
the lives that Paris has led
Yes.
is fantastic. It's amazing. Most major cities have led a lot of lives. There's been a
Yes.
lot of change. They have looked different over the
Mm-hmm.
years. As you add new characters, as you add new places to the buildings, I'm assuming that that's what you're doing is you're adding
Mm-hmm.
history almost
Yep. Yep. Yep.
on top of these layers.
Yes.
Is that part of your process too? Or is
Some.
it from
Mm-hmm.
your imagination, what you see in the future, what you imagine it
Mm-hmm.
need to be? How
Mm-hmm.
much of that is reality
Right.
versus imagination?
Both. It's both.
Ooh,
Sometimes I'll go in, and like I do remember so well when in Paris the bombing happened,
yes.
in these cafes, and I was just thinking, this person was eating with their spouse, and now they're under, hiding because they're getting shot at. How can this happen? And in
Yes.
this, how can this be? So I go into my studio, and I'll paint. I painted in that case over Brooklyn Bridge, and I went to Paris, and I made it spring, beautiful colors, yellows and oranges and blues, and resilient and strong. And I put the people in there because they'll come back. And it was all from feeling so disturbed that this happened. So I can go in there and say, okay, I need to get all this out, and I'm going to put that on the painting. But I also can go into the studio and say, I'm just going to paint whatever I want. And people
Mm.
ask me all the time, when do you know you're done? And I say, it is such an instinctive feeling. And if I ask somebody, which I rarely do, but there was this one painting, it's my favorite example of this, and it was a Brooklyn Bridge, and everybody said, oh, I love it, I love it, love it. So I said, oh, I don't think I'm done, but everybody loves it. Put a frame on it, put it in my studio, and every single day
Wow.
I was looking at it going, I'm not done with this one, but I framed it. And so I took it in my studio, and I said, to make me happy, I'll just highlight and do this kind of thing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to follow my instinct. It was the best thing I ever did with a frame on it. I put a whole nother layer of color. I went from the Brooklyn Bridge to Central Park. I went from greens and yellows to blues and oranges. And I put this whole, I painted a bridge. I painted Central Park. I painted the trees and falls, and it was beautiful. And I worked on it for a couple of weeks, and I stopped and I said, now I'm happy. Now my frame is a mess and I have to reframe the whole thing, but I didn't care,
Yeah,
right? I said,
absolutely.
well, just take it. And do you know what happened? That painting, I put it on social media.
Mhm.
And that day, a lady called me and said, that's my painting. And I said, do you want to see it in person? And she's in Boston. She said, no, send it over, just like that. Send it over. Ask me the price, send it over. She called. I did. I thought this is really nobody. Most people, because in person the painting has life. It has
Absolutely.
beauty. I mean, it's great on the photograph, but nothing like in person. She didn't want to
Absolutely.
see in person. She called me about a week later and she said, "Do you want to know why I had to have that painting? I had to have that painting because I was there in Central Park with my best friend Jeremy, and we had the most wonderful lunch. And then we went on that bridge and we talked. And the next day, he committed suicide because he was in 9/11, and he was the only survivor in his family. And she said the painting reminded me so much in a good way of him. I have it in my bedroom. And every morning I wake up and I think of my friend Jeremy and the day we had together in a good way, she said, not in a bad
Mhm.
way.
Yeah,
And I thought to myself when she told me this story, imagine if I didn't listen to my instinct and didn't paint it over. So
absolutely.
that's my favorite story about following when you get in there, follow what you want to do. Even
Yes.
though people say this and this and this, even though you put a frame on it, on a frame on it, do what you, and so now I will always do that. I will always think you're done when you're done.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I so appreciate that you
It's one
shared
of
that
my
story
favorite
with
stories.
us.
Yeah.
Yes, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, the power of art, the healing power of
Yeah.
art,
Yes.
of which you have been practicing and displaying your whole career, your whole life. It's just beautiful, the through thread of this. Tell
Thank
us a little bit more now about this next move to
you.
get your paintings into
Mhm.
museums.
Mhm.
I love the reasoning behind this. Tell us a little bit more about kind of
Well,
the evolution of this process too, as
yes.
an artist going
Hmm.
from selling,
Yes.
gallery,
Yes.
museum. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Well, I've sold to date in the last 25 years, I've sold 483 original paintings. Original. That doesn't count giclées or limited edition prints, just original paintings. And up to 350,000 a painting. And one painting is on one painting is on a bid. It's in private collection and
Don't touch these, okay?
it's 8 people have bid on it over 1.3 million, but I'm trying not to sell that one. So I've done a lot of good selling. And I love that people have my paintings and they enjoy them. But then I got to a point about a year ago where I thought I read that book I told you about where Van Gogh's sister-in-law had to sell his paintings when Van Gogh died and the brother died. And she said in the book, if I give these paintings to homes, they will go in the homes and they will go into the next generation and the next generation, and the world won't see them.
Yes.
And I thought, I've given a lot to private homes in Europe, all around the world, all around the United States. Okay, now it's time to maybe, and I have been in 2 museum exhibitions, but they were 3 months and done. I'd like to do something a little bit more permanent and so that a wider audience can see the paintings. And so don't sell, and I'm also, getting up there. Don't sell everything now, what you have left. Try to bring that out a little bit more into the world and less into the homes of people. So that's kind of my goal, and I'm talking to different people about it and how to do that. I probably have about 50 paintings left to my name, but oh,
Oh, there you are.
oh, I'm back.
You're
Okay,
back.
I got to calm you down. So, but I want to maybe take those paintings. I hope to paint to the end. But if maybe 80, but I mean, there's going to be a limit where I can't get on that ladder anymore, and that's why I'm doing my big ones now. Because I know at a certain
Amazing.
point it's going to
Yeah.
be hard to get on the ladder for the big, big, big paintings. It's just going to be that way. It's already
Yes.
getting harder. So that's my goal. I think I'm talking with my consultants and my people. Can I take the work in a museum way where more people can enjoy the works versus in a private setting? And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
But you have diversified in such an incredible way because you have this platform where your pieces are appreciated in the homes of of people who love them. But you photographed everything that you
Yes.
sold. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
That's correct.
Which I think is something really important
Oh,
for
yeah.
us to hear, Layla. How did you know that that was going to be important? Even before you
Yeah.
had the success that you had, you were
Yeah.
still photographing these.
Yeah, well,
What
everything was documented, but I had the good fortune of meeting Chick Harity, he
Mhm,
retired, moved to Calistoga, and I met him about 20 some odd years ago.
mhm.
And he was the White House photographer to 8 presidents. The last one being Bill Clinton, and then he retired, right?
Yeah.
So I had the good fortune. He moved just over here in Calistoga, and I met him, and he has been my friend and photographer for all these years. And with him, every time I painted a painting, he photographed it. All the books I'm in, he's been the photographer. And so everything is documented so we can go back and we can look
Yes.
at everything. I've painted thousands and thousands of paintings, and he would come and document them now. Now it's too hard for him.
Incredible.
He's in his 80s, and so my son-in-law does that now. But yes, it's important to document everything. Uh,
Yes.
yes, it
Do
is.
you see the growth in that too, but also
Oh,
others now have access
yeah,
to this body of work and
yes.
to be impacted by what you're doing. So tell us too what you're doing in collaboration now with your husband and Charter Oak Winery. You have your studio there, and tell us about the tours and the way that you have collaborated and taken what you're offering, this gift of your artistry, in another direction. I just think you're so incredibly wise, Layla, with how
Thank
you have
you.
shared.
Thank
And
you.
I want for us to learn from that.
Okay, well, what I did was my husband was a tax attorney, I was a teacher.
Mhm.
He was starting Charter Oak Winery, and his family history here in Charter Oak is his grandfather made wine and his grandmother in the cellar below the house for 80 years.
Amazing.
And so he was helping them for all these years. They lived in 99 and 98. Yep, it's the wine.
The
And
wine.
yeah, red wine, handcrafted, hand punched, hand pressed, no chemicals, no sugars added, natural yeast fermentation. And he learned. And so then he started Charter Winery in 1998 with just 6 to 800 cases. Fast forward here, we're 25 years old. Then he makes 1,000 cases a year in the same artisan way, hand punched, hand pressed, no chemicals, sugar added, a lot of work, only grapes in that bottle. And so was doing that while he was an attorney. He just retired from law, not from wine. And I was teaching and trying to get the painting going. We merged together about 18 years ago here on Charter Oak Avenue. And the house that was built in 1900 became my studio. Below it is a cellar. In the back is a cellar. In the barn I'm in now is our wine tasting room. And so we combined wine and art. We combined two forms, but the wine is made in an artisan way. The paintings are made in a very unique way. And so when people come through the door, we host 2 tours a day by appointment. And when they come through the door from everywhere, all around, primarily the United States, but we do get people from Europe, but primarily the United States. And when they come through the door, we show them how the wines are made. We taste the wines, and then we go to another art form. We show them how the art is made, and we show them the gallery and the paintings that are in the whole home, showing in the gallery rooms. And so they get a little taste of wine, a little taste of art, and the merger between the wine and art has proven to be a really good formula business wise, because
Absolutely.
it just offers something different in two forms. And it's in this old farmhouse. It was built in 1900. People just feel something over there that they don't feel in the other three homes. They just feel it right there.
It's
And so
layers.
it's it
It's
is
the
layers.
Layla layers.
It is layers, and I can't tell you how many people have sat in that kitchen. That's their kitchen table, and built in 1900, and they say, I feel my grandmother's. They just feel something,
Oh,
and it's it happens all the time, and so the combination of not only two art forms but two unique, we're the only ones that we know of that make wine like this, because it's a lot of work. It's not as cost effective as putting it in the machines and turning it on. Let's face it.
absolutely.
And so, but it is something unique and different. And I think, I'd say most people really appreciate the artisan form and legacy and history that we're leaving. Hopefully to the next generation and to the next generation.
Absolutely. And to your like of threes, you have added one more layer to what you're doing at
That's right.
Charter Oak. Tell us about your music festival, which also marries
Yes.
your
Yes.
history in music. Tell us a little
Yes.
bit about that.
Well, Charter Oak, I always say we bought the property next door to the grandparents' home about 12 or 13 years ago, and we're growing more land, and we have two homes for our members to come and stay at. And that's the whole sharing process, right? That's the whole sharing process. So, what we love is to create wine, art, music. Who doesn't love music? And we love to create and share, right? It'd be like if you have a meal that you prepare and you sit down and eat it by yourself. That's not as fun as you opening the doors, inviting all your friends in and sharing. So the music is with Live in the Vineyard, and we were honored to have them come and say, let's do this together. And they pair wineries with musicians. So every year we have these amazing country music stars write their own music, play their own songs, but even more wonderful than that, the most genuine, loving people on the planet. I don't know how they do that. How do you get that? I don't know. But they come here and Chef Catherine cooks a meal, Rob shares the wine, and they share their gift of music. And I'm telling you, as a music teacher and an art lover and all that good stuff, I just sit there and enjoy every moment of their
Absolutely.
talent and their songs. And I share it with everybody on social media because I think they're just so amazing. One is a husband and wife team this year, the Dries,
Oh,
and one was a young girl from LA, Chloe Cat, and her three other musicians. And I just have to tell you, Katie, I'm just like in awe of the great talent these people have to offer. There's so much talent in this world. There's so
absolutely.
much.
And you
And
created a platform to
yep,
celebrate it. It's
the
just
sharing. That's the
beautiful.
sharing. That's
Yes.
I always tell everybody before they start, what's better than a great meal,
Mhm.
great wine, friends and family to enjoy it with, and then on top of that, live music. I'm in heaven here.
Yes.
What's better?
You're getting to enjoy it too. So
Yes,
one last question for you from me,
yes,
Layla, before we
yes.
open up for our participants here, our attendees today, to be
Okay,
able to ask you their questions. But
okay.
tell us about the fallacy that you can do everything right at the same time. Tell us about
Oh,
the fact how time
yes,
makes
yes.
how we need to not be afraid of things taking their time, because
100%.
you have spoken to this so beautifully, both with Marlo in today, your story speaks of that. um, Tell us a little bit more about your personal philosophy on that.
Well, I'm a believer that you can do everything in life, but you can't do everything at the same time. You cannot. And if you try to do that, and that's why I didn't want to teach and paint,
Yes.
one or the other will suffer, if not both. You're not going to get great results. I had somebody come and say, I want to be a writer. how can I do that? And I said, how many children do you have? She said, four. I said, you can't do that. And how old are the children? Like four, three, two, one. You can't do that. You can do that later when they're in college and when they will actually leave someday. I know you don't believe that, but they will
That's
go.
true.
When they go, then
Yes.
you can do that. But you really have to, whatever you want to do, you really have to focus in on it. And I am not a believer that you can do everything at the same time. You have to focus. So choose. If you're a mother, be a mother. If you're a teacher, be a teacher. If you're an artist, be an artist. For me personally, I can't do everything. It goes in too many different directions. And so when people ask me, I tell them, remember, I was in my mid 40s. I had my kids young. They were all launching, so they didn't need me. And so I had the time. All right, now's the time to do it. And so that's when I focused and I did it. So you can do anything in life but not at the same time. And that's just my feeling. I don't
Oh,
know
I
if I'm correct or
completely
not.
agree. Completely agree. And it is so helpful to hear that in a world and in a society that says that there's an expiration date on women and
Mhm.
their abilities. It's absolutely not true. And
No.
you prove it every single day.
Yes.
You are the proof of that. Thank you, Layla. All right,
Okay. But
ladies, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask Layla your questions, your burning questions. Feel free to unmute if you'd like, if there's something that you would like to ask of Layla. There's Megan. She's going to pop
Hi.
on in.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh, so good. So good.
It's funny. The one thing that I'll say that really, really jumped out at me, Layla, when I was first introduced to your art years and years ago,
Mhm.
I remember I felt this like pang of sadness that you were covering up the
Oh,
work that you had done. And it was such an interesting perspective. I was like, oh my gosh, but we can't see the full first layer.
yeah.
And then what you said today was so poignant about like we are just like that in life. Our who we are today is made up of all of these layers and things that have happened. And so it just was an interesting way for me to look at that and be like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's so very true.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
and you
that.
aren't the first one that said that. I've
Yeah.
had people say, "Don't go over this one. I really, really like it." And
Yeah.
when I say, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go over it," and I
Yeah.
remember our house cleaner said, "You one crazy lady."
But I
The
love,
history
it's
is still there, though. It's never fully hidden, though, right?
No,
yeah, but
no,
it's so
not.
true. Like, and another thing is that you said that is we have these instincts for a reason, and you trusted yours, and then look what an impact it made on the woman who bought it that reminded her of her friend.
Of her friend
You
Jeremy.
know, and there's a reason we have artistic instinct, and there was a
Yes,
purpose for that piece,
yes,
and I just think that was really, really cool.
yeah. That was one of my favorite stories.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It was so impactful to me.
yeah, I bet.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
Jamie, you popped on here too. What would you like to ask Layla?
Layla, this was
Oh,
just amazing. This
oh,
was so beautiful.
thank you.
And I think everything that we just kind of wrapped up with when you talked about you can do everything in life but not at once, that is so resonating with me.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who's in her mid 40s and
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that a lot and thinking about what I want to do, and I teach
Mm-hmm.
right now as well.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, you just spoke right to me that you
Oh,
have to really choose and focus what you want to do in life. And, getting to that crossroads. I loved when you said, I have to do this, to see if I can do it.
yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
I,
impetus of that statement is so powerful. I
yeah,
agree, Jamie. Yeah, I love that
yeah,
statement, Layla.
thank
just
you. Thank you so much.
just beautiful, just everything. Do you still play music and
I play
sing?
music every day.
Okay.
And because I played the guitar and taught the guitar for so many years, I'm studying the piano. So at 50, I also told my poor husband, I want a Steinway and I want to take lessons. And he said, and you need a Steinway? I said, yes, I have a good ear.
Yes.
And so for my 50th birthday, I got my Steinway piano. And I've been playing now for 50, 60, I'm 67, 17 years. I take lessons still every Tuesday. And so I'm studying the piano.
That
It
is
is
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, in detail. Like I want to study different genres and, classical jazz and all that kind of stuff. So you can always learn something. I'll probably be doing that to the end. But yes, I play every single day.
Oh,
Amazing.
incredible, Layla.
You're my new
Kelly,
hero.
right? I know. It's so true. We've got Michelle who popped on. We got Kelly. Kelly, what did you want to ask of Layla?
I don't have an ask or a question. Just wanted to say how inspiring I think you are. And I think it is so cool how you have kept music running through your art and through your life.
Mhm.
And I love how everything kind of plays upon each other, you know? And then now in this latest iteration with your husband, you're bringing both of your creative outlets together and making something amazing. So thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Super inspiring to me.
That's so nice. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, go ahead and unmute. What would you like to ask Layla?
Hi. Yeah, well,
Hi.
if you can't see the resemblance, I'm her daughter and
I
I'm
wonder.
her proud daughter.
Hi.
And no, I don't, I obviously have asked her all the questions, so I don't have one. I just am here to say what an amazing dialogue and interview you two had, and how great to encapsulate these beautiful women together and inspire each other. My mom truly is one of the most inspiring women in my life, and she gave so much to her three kids. And when she took on this next chapter, it was just like the force of energy she put into us now translated into her art form, and we were blown away. We were like, what is she doing? This is so and we just every day we watch her in awe. I mean, she's out there every day painting. There's she doesn't pick up my phone calls. She's painting, and she loves it. And it's an inspiration that you like she said, you got this one life, and just do what feels right in your soul and your heart, and don't let the fear of the paycheck or am I going to fail or she just is a real inspiration that we all have so much within ourselves, and we need to do it and be brave and believe in whatever that fire is within us. It was planted there for a reason, and just explore it. And so her paintings didn't look like what they did now. That was such a work of progress. I mean, the first one, if you look at the first one, it looks nothing like it did today. This is a woman who has no connections to the art business. This is a woman who never had an art class. And so for every woman out there, like, if there's something burning within you, follow it and see where it leads you. And we can do anything. So that's what my mom taught me, was that, you know, we can do anything. And it's scary. Like, I try to take my own advice. That paycheck is what holds us back. The commitments of family and all the things that people we have to take care of holds us back. But my mom's really good at listening to her inner voice, and using her heart to drive her forward. And she's touched so many people through her art and what she's done. So I'm the proudest daughter. And
I'm crying now.
Michelle, I know you're making us all cry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
It's
say I
just-
wasn't going to speak,
It's
but
so
I'm
beautiful.
so
Thank you
proud of
so
her.
much. Thank you so
And
much. I mean,
this group
that's
of
another.
women is incredible. So thank you, Katie, for hosting this
So
and
glad you're here.
spotlighting my mom. I'm sorry if I made you cry, Mom.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, that's just it's another indicator too, though, Layla, that you poured into your children the same passion that you did on all of these different aspects of your artistry, that your children are your artwork too.
Yes.
Woo! Woo!
Yeah.
One
Woo!
day.
It was all, she
they
believed
are
in
my
us. It was us.
Yeah,
Like she didn't give anything to
that's
herself. She was
amazing.
really selfish. Like it was all
Oh,
us. It was like,
so
we're giving
beautiful.
you everything to succeed. And it was all us. I didn't know she had another interest, and then she switched and she went to when we were gone and didn't, like she said, didn't need her. She
Yes.
something turned on and she did her thing. Yeah.
You were out of the house at that time, Michelle?
Almost. Yeah. I was going to college. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when she started to pick it up. And so, yeah.
So
So
Layla, first of all, I'm so glad,
Amazing.
Michelle, that you joined. Oh my gosh,
I
this is so
know.
great. And
she ruined
Layla,
she ruined my makeup.
oh, okay.
We're all
So-
crying now.
Michelle, I feel like I'm in the same boat. I have the same kind of mom, and that poured absolutely everything in. And then when she wanted to go back to nursing, did that. But something that jumped out that you said, Layla, about, I go out there for hours and hours and it just brings me joy. So, thinking about taking a risk to pursue something that brings you so much joy, the world needs more joy. It doesn't need more comfort. It
100%.
doesn't need more comfort.
100%.
That's what
Beautiful,
holds us
Megan.
back, I think. Comfort has definitely kept me sometimes from jumping off.
Yes.
But we need joy because joy is what is just contagious,
100%.
Comfort's not contagious.
Right. No, 100%, Megan. 100%.
Absolutely. Ooh! Oh,
100%.
with that is the most beautiful end cap to this conversation. Lindsay, I know I saw her pop in and out. Lindsay, if there was something that you wanted to pop in with, feel free. I know Lindsay's also she manages a tea house, a beautiful tea house. So she's in the middle of the workday too. So she may be juggling that. But Layla, we just want to thank you on behalf of the Virtuosa Society for joining me, for joining us today, for sharing so honestly, so beautifully your insight, your story. You are an inspiration in every sense of the word.
Well, Katie, know that it's my honor, my privilege, and a joy. Know that. Know that. It's my joy.
Very, very much. Virtuosa, like that. When I think of that word, I'm going to be saying equals Layla. You are virtuosic in every sense.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
And we will look forward to the next elevation conversation. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.